Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us or taking your time to be with us this morning. It's now 11:03 a.m. here in Nairobi. It's a slightly cold and chilly morning, but we hope that things will, the skies will open up and brighten up as we go along the day. On the call with me is my co-host Elmo, who's our Ubiquiti product manager, sitting at our sister company Miro in South Africa. We also have Fred, who's our business development manager here at Hudaco, Kenya, responsible for the communication and wireless division. I can see Gilbert and Jeremiah on the call. Thank you guys for being with us this morning. So we're just going to kick off very quickly. But before we do that, just some house cleaning matters. We've got a chat box on your you've got an icon to the chat box on your far right of your screen. Please use that chat box to communicate with us. Send us your questions, inquiries, and we will respond to them at the end of Elmo's presentation. We also have a question and answer tab on your bottom right of your screen. You can also use that to share your, questions of, issues or recommendations with us as well, and we will respond at the end of the session. So just to kick us off, as is our tradition, we will do a brief introduction into Hudaco, Kenya, and then thereafter hand over the session to my co-host sitting in South Africa, that's Elmo, who will be focusing the discussion around the EdgeMax routing capabilities. So I'm just going to share my screen right now, and I request that you all confirm on the chat box that you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Terry, from my side, I cannot see anything at the moment.
Yeah, just a moment, please. I'm trying to get it up. Oh, wow, I seem to be having a bit of a challenge with that, but I can very quickly just take us through who we are as I try to sort that out. For some strange reason, I'm not able to share my screen with you. But just, as a brief introduction to Hudaco, we are part of the Hudaco company group of companies. And we're a leading value-added distributor of quality and innovative integrated security, IP-enabled voice and video and telecommunication solutions to the greater East and Sub-Saharan African market. We have a strong belief that IP technology is the future for communication and should be easily accessible to everyone. And so our team of IP converged professionals, sitting across, both Kenya as well as South Africa, are dedicated to taking your business to the next level. And we totally believe that we need to empower you in order to be able to empower communities. Just looking at our experience, we have over 17 years of industry knowledge, that's across the group. We're able to sell both into the Eastern African space as well as Sub-Saharan and Central Africa. And then, of course, we've got Miro, who has the Southern African distributorship. We are focused on online training and empowering both our partners and our clients, with the right technical information, allowing you to be able to service your clients. And our approach to the market space is really to offer a holistic, complete, solution, and not just, push boxes, but really just understand what your requirements are, and then be able to design solutions that will be able to address those particular requirements. And really that is where our value add comes into play. We are also very strong on our social media handles. We've got a LinkedIn page, follow us at Hudaco Kenya. We also have a YouTube channel, which you will receive the address to the YouTube channel after this session. And we also post all our previous webinar sessions, so you can be able to go back to it at your own time, at your own convenience. Please share this with your peers, your colleagues, your friends, just so that we can continue to impart knowledge. Right, looking at why would you want to choose Hudaco and how we positioned in the market. We have a complete full end-to-end solutions, right from an LTE perspective into Wi-Fi, into broadband, into infrastructure, very, very strong on security, and of course Internet of Things. And that's just a whole array of end-to-end solutions that we bring to you. We have specific brands that we or well-renowned brands that we engage with, such as, of course, Ubiquiti, who's our focus for today. We've got Cambium Networks, we've got GrandStream, we've got Microtech. From a security perspective, we've got Suprema, we've got Tyco, we've got Access, we've got Uniview, and that's just a brief introduction into the products that we distribute into the spaces that we work in. From a support perspective, we've got a strong technical support team sitting locally here in Kenya as well as in South Africa. And we want to walk the journey with you right from the scope into the design. And of course, what's most important is the after-sales element of it. The solutions that we bring into the spaces that we operate in are all legally compliant solutions. We've got great relationships with the communication authorities in each of these countries, and we make sure that we take this equipment through the type approval process. We also understand that COVID being COVID and what the impact it's had on our business, we understand that a lot of businesses are struggling from a finance perspective, and so what we've done is we've engaged with a number of financiers who are able to then rate the strength of your organization, and we're able to extend credit terms anything from 7 to 30 days, allowing you to be able to service your customers as you expect, as you wait for payment. So that's just a brief introduction into Hudaco Kenya. At this point, I'd like to hand over the session to my colleague, Elmo. Elmo, over to you.
Right. Good morning, Terry and Frederick Gilbert. Trust you're all well. From my side in sunny South Africa, it is a bit chilly, but at least we've got some sun. Yeah. So today I just quickly wanted to talk about the edge routers and switches from the EdgeMax range. And I just really want to showcase what these switches and routers can do. My personal opinion is that EdgeMax are often overlooked as a brand. Yeah, and I just want to make sure that we all know what we have in Ubiquiti's EdgeMax range. So I just want to share my screen. Desktop. Okay. Terry, can you just confirm whether you can see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen very well, Elmo. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So like I've mentioned, EdgeMax is part of the Ubiquiti's range for your switches and routers that you might require in a networking environment. And Ubiquiti's EdgeMax is just really designed to deliver robust world-class indoor and outdoor wired networking solutions. So the nice couple of features on these units are they are powered by the Edge OS, featuring a next generation graphical user interface. We'll talk about the UNMS platform in a bit, but it's also housed in a compact fanless form factor. And the EdgeMax units operate quietly as it delivers powerful routing. And then of course your security and management features as well, which will then create an efficient run for your network. But let's have a look at some of the challenges and how we can overcome them with regards to edge routers. Today I want to be talking about the security and firewall applications. As you all know, that's quite imperative for any business or network. Features and attributes. We want to talk a little bit about the switchboard intelligence and VLAN convenience. and then also the ease of setting these units up with regards to your UNMS centralized management platform. The industry challenges that we've come across in our years of experiences is the network securities specifically. Miro, in actual fact, has one or two of these security configurations in our own server room based on the EdgeMax range. So it also assists with multi-branch applications, etc. But there are one or two things that we would have to look for. So the network security part of it, switching basics for your network security, switches are used to connect computers, for instance, and servers, as I've mentioned with Miro, into a single network. So the switch performs the function of your controller, so you can log into it and then just monitor and manage your application. And of course, it allows the device within a network to communicate with each other. So this is great, especially if you've got a bigger network topology that you need this for. And then the router and switching configuration is a very sophisticated routing feature on the router side that includes advanced security monitoring and management of high performance gigabit ports, which again, you can manage the ports from the UNMS. And then of course, that platform I have to mention is free. We'll talk about the actual platform in a bit. Security and firewall capabilities. The nice thing about these routers and switches is you can now set up policies, for instance, and organize these rules that you apply in order that you specify. I'm talking about the firewalls, for instance. You can set up what is allowed and what isn't allowed from your actual software-defined platform. Plus, these units have enough processing power to be classified as a level 3 enterprise router. So the nice thing about that is obviously the extra power that it can provide on that enterprise level. And then one of the other applications within the router is also ad blocking, which I'm sure we all agree any good network needs. And then talking about ad blocking, it can now be activated through the command line interface. And on the Ubiquiti community forum, they constantly update the script of which you can then download for free to add to your specifications that you've set up within your router or then your block list. So for instance, you can block selected groups of people, for instance, on the predetermined categories to have more control over type of traffic that is allowed into your network. I'll talk about the traffic analysis in a minute. But I think it's quite neat to know that you can set up these parameters on what is allowed and what isn't allowed. I know that big companies like Google use algorithm to predict what you are looking for based on your searches. And now you can control that of what is allowed and what isn't, for instance. Right, let's have a look at the features and attributes. The DHCP server, dynamic host configuration, of course. This is one way of setting up a profile, basically, that will allow your devices that connect to that profile certain criteria. Traffic analysis, the POE functionality, smart queue functionality, and then, of course, the switch port functionality. Ubiquiti stands firm in their claim that the DHCP server is a dynamic network server for both routers and switches, which, as I've mentioned, automatically provides and assigns IP addresses. It also has default gateways and then other network perimeters that you can set to your client devices. In other words, what is allowed and what isn't. With traffic analysis, when you enable this feature, it will allow you to drill into the IP addresses. Now, if there are any bosses here, this is perfect for you because you can drill into an IP address associated with a certain device and actually see exactly what these people are doing on your network. So the router categorizes this in order to analyze the type of traffic, and then of course it makes it visible to you, the controller. So this is perfect for small office solutions. Like I said, the bosses do enjoy this quite a bit. And then you can use this to control streaming services and web browsing. So not just only can you drill into the IP addresses to see what your colleagues, for instance, is doing, but you can also preset the streaming services so that you know you've got control over what they are allowed to look at. Basically control at your fingertips. So you can see how doing what percentage and usage according to the categories set, as we've mentioned, set it up via the DHCP server. And of course, who is allowed on which connection. So you might have staff on one profile that you've created through your server or by the router, with different bandwidth, for instance, blocking social media platforms like Facebook, etc., if they need to do some work. And you might have guests authenticate on another profile with different set of criteria. So different throughput, different what is allowed and what isn't allowed regarding your streaming services. You can use this as a marketing platform. So when your people want to authenticate, you can have a page, and on that page, you can actually have one or two specials perhaps that you might run, especially if I look at Miro, for instance. We obviously have social media presence all over the place, and we often use this platform to promote. Then let's have a look at the POE functionality. By default, these units are active POE 48 volt, and an active POE that negotiates the correct voltage between the switch and the POE powered device, as you can see on my diagram there at the bottom. The passive POE 24 volt does no negotiation and as much as always sending electrical current over the Ethernet cable at a certain voltage that is required by the device. Basically what that means is that you get 48 volt POE within the EdgeMax, and you've also got 24 volt passive POE. The passive POE, like I said, does no negotiation, and it will always send the same electrical current over the Ethernet cable with whatever your device requires. So let's say an access point, for instance. You can go into the Unify access point, like I've said. The only thing that you would then have to do is switch the intelligent on your switch off or on, for that matter. So switching the intelligent to know when not to power, that basically means if you do not do that functionality, you switch from 48 to 24, your actual switch will not power the access point. It's got that intelligence to know that I've got too much power to give to that access point. And then basically what that means is you can go into the 48 volt unit, and you can then toggle between the two ports, 48 volt and 24 volt. That will increase the power to power your access point, or decrease your power rather to your access point. So this is also as simple as switching on or off your AutoSense power. It's a yes or no function. I have to also reiterate the caution when using EdgeMax routers or switches when powering your passive equipment from Unify. Like I said, EdgeMax uses a different centralized management platform than that of a Unify, using a software-defined management platform. So if you do deploy multiple Unify access points, for instance, I would advise then sticking to a Unify switch. The combination, however, with EdgeMax and Unify, let's say, for instance, you've got Unify cameras that are also 24 volt passive, then I would say, it's the perfect application for rural areas and or solar solutions, even if you have them at your high sites. Basically a switch and a network that you do not touch as often as you would on, let's say, an office infrastructure where you've got Unify access points and you would have Unify switches. Purely based on the fact that you cannot control your access point via EdgeMax due to the different software platform. So just to conclude, if you've got a 24 volt passive Unify device that you need to power using an EdgeMax router or switch, you will have to do a toggle between the 48 volt port and the 24 volt port before it will power the 24 volt passive device. Smart queue functionality. This is, of course, something that gamers and those type of people love with these routers. In actual fact, given the constant demand of higher speeds and more throughput, this is actually the perfect application. So I want you to imagine the interaction that you have and the functionality that you have between, let's say, YouTube and Netflix, for instance. So using this application, it actually creates a stable link with improved latency. So the longer you let this run, the more advanced the setting runs to decrease the bottleneck effect and improve your experience. So if you think about a video that's loading, you always have this buffer bloat that keeps on. You can actually see it stops the program or it stops the game because it wants to get to the point where there's enough packets in order then to produce the next frame. With Smart Queue functionality, it actually decreases the packet prioritization to a streamline where it will actually affect the quality of your view. Let's say, for instance, your game or your whatever you stream. It will downgrade the quality, but it will not stop to buffer. And you can just imagine, like I said, the big gamers out there, they love this functionality because they don't get a drop when playing. So the buffer purely exists to ease the problem by giving the fast network a place to stop packets to be read by the slower network, for instance, at its own pace. So the Smart Queue is especially created for VoIP solutions due to the packet prioritization. As you all know, VoIP takes preference when it comes to assigning certain packets into your network. Switch port functionality and VLAN convenience. Sorry, I just quickly wanted to, my computer just froze. As you can see here with the switch port functionality and the VLAN convenience, it is easy to set up. You will have a VLAN accounting, VLAN 20 marketing, and a VLAN 30 for training. As I've explained, this is just to show you how you can create the different profiles that you would then assign your devices to using those specific ports. That we'll have a look in a minute with regards to the power output on these units and how you would use this to configure your whole network. This is a unified switch, but the edge switches work exactly the same. Ease and fast setup by UNMS. So this edge router or the switches is supported and managed by Ubiquiti Network Management System, the UNMS. It is a comprehensive management controller which features a graphic interface, which is quite comes in handy when you need to do a quick device detection and setup, for instance. And you can use the single control plane to manage and register new EdgeMax devices, even across multiple networks and sites. One platform, you can sit in your own office and control the whole network via this platform. Then, of course, using your EdgeMax that is linked to the access points or the devices that needs to be powered. So why you would use UNMS? Number one, it's from one centralized management platform, like I said, that you can use to control your Ubiquiti devices. You can even load the UNMS app on your phone. And you can do your router specifications from that one device. So you can literally use your cell phone to set these units up. You can manage the platform from any device, anywhere. So you can take a holiday and still know what's happening in your office. And the reason why this works so well is because it's a remote configuration that has multitude of possibilities. You can even do troubleshooting remotely, which means that you save some money. You don't need to send out a technician, for instance, to go and have a look what the problem is. You can do the diagnostics from this platform through the EdgeMax routers. You can access your client's access points, like I said, to do the troubleshooting. And you can even do backups on your Ubiquiti devices. Also, the software, you can go onto the community page of Ubiquiti, ui.com. On their community page in the forum, they often not release software that you can then obviously just go download, set a time to what you would like or when you would like the devices to upgrade. So let's say, for instance, 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. and you update all of your devices. The nice thing about the UNMS as well, on the right-hand corner on your integrated graphical interface, on the right-hand side, on the corner there, you will see a little notification box. So when there is new software available for any of the devices that are linked to your network, it will automatically flag it for you so that you know you're constantly updated on the latest firmware. Okay. EdgeMax knowing what you need. I've put together a little bit of a cheat sheet. I will share this with Terry as well and the Hudaco group in Kenya. Here you can see if you require more maximum performance, those are the routers to use. The 4-port 6P, 12, 12P, X and XG. If you need 10 gigabits plus SFP ports, you can then of course look at the Edge router 8-port XG. If you need 1 gigabit SFP port, those are your options. Anything from your Edge router 4-port all the way through to your R8 or your ERX SFP unit. And then of course, the units that require a switch chip is then your ER12s, 12Ps, 10XX, XSFP, and R6. Rack mountable, there you've got your options there as well, especially if you are looking at deploying it in a server room, for instance, and then on your mountain side or outside, mounted outside, well, mounted is outside as well, I suppose, but mounted outside, those are the two units that you can have a look at. There are quite a bit of units that is quite industrial and quite robust, so don't be afraid to use it in an outdoor environment, obviously within the specifications that is available on the data sheet if you want to make sure. And then those units that you see on the right hand side are the units that you can power your devices through POE. Okay, so that's the Edge router 12, 6P, R6, R8, etc. Like I said, knowing what you need is an essential part of your networking infrastructure. And then what's that saying? Not planning to fail is something like that. You plan to fail, or yeah, something like that. Failing to plan means that your plan will fail. Some of the options there, and then of course the final conclusion is a convincing fact that these features and accessibility places the Edge router and switches from Ubiquiti networks at the top of your list for networking environments, for home applications, small to medium networks, all the way through to enterprise levels. So that basically just envelopes that the router you can put up in your own house if you've got certain security features and firewalls that you would require for your own family, especially now given the fact that schools have closed. I'm not too sure what the circumstances are in Kenya, but this is a big selling point for us specifically in the public sector due to the fact that you can now set up these parameters through your router and switches to ensure that when the child goes on to the learning platform that it's safe and secure. And then of course you've got control over your access points as well via the routers. So you can even switch your access points on or off if you need to. If your child needs to start studying again at 7, just kill the internet and I promise you they'll be able to concentrate on their work. For me, that is it. Like I said, it's a brief overview of the EdgeMax and Edge switches. There are a lot more functionality to these units. And I think between August and September, we are going to look at more deep dive sessions with more technical, structured type of presentations. That goes for the overall Miro PMs and our portfolio of what we can produce. And then, of course, hand in hand with Hudaco Kenya, we'll start training you guys on using the software platforms, which, of course, then makes it a whole lot easier when you are planning your solution. So thank you very much, Frederick and Gilbert. I hope that this was a little bit more informative than the information that you had. And yeah, please, any questions, we'll take it from there.
Right. Thank you, Elmo, for that informative session. I don't see any questions on our chat box or on the Q&A session. So I guess it's right time for me to say, wish you all a great weekend ahead. Keep safe and let's reconvene on this platform again next Friday, as is our tradition. Goodbye, everyone.
Perfect. Thanks, Sherry. Cheers.